Okay, now let's go on with the next concept called as the conditional statements. Okay, this is the next topic that we are seeing today. Conditional statements. Okay, so what are conditional statements, right? So the conditional statement in Python, right? So it is going to have this syntax and keywords called as if, else, and elif. Okay, so we will see how to do the coding in a short while. So the conditional statements is you want to check whether a condition is either true or false. Depending on the condition being true, you are going to execute one set of statement. If the condition is false, then you have another set of statements to run. Okay, so that is what is called as a conditional statement, correct? So just to give you the glimpse, so it's like a decision making. Okay, you want to make a decision out of something. Okay, for instance, if you just assume that you want to make a decision. Yeah, I have two numbers A and B. Now I want to check whether A is greater than B or not. And if A is greater than B, okay, I'm going to say A is greater. Okay, so here let's say this is true. Now if this condition is false, then I'm going to print B is greater. Correct? So I have two numbers now, A and B. Maybe both the numbers are, let's assume that they are all integers. So I'm just going to check for a condition here. If A is greater than B, this is the condition I'm going to check. Now if the condition is true, then I have something to print. If the condition is false, I have something else to print. Okay, that is what is called as conditional statements. So you have some decision appearing here. So depending on the decision, whether you have a condition, and depending on the condition being true, you take one decision. If the condition is false, you take another decision. Correct? So this is what is called as a conditional statements in Python, right? So for this, we are going to make use of the if-else statements. So let's see the very small example first, and then go for the other examples with if-else. Okay. So already I have two numbers, A equal to 10 and B equal to 5. Now we are going to say if. So if I type if, you can see that it is changing the color. So which means it's a keyword. So I'm going to say, I'm going to use the brackets for now. So if A is greater than B, that is the condition, right? So if you just say A greater than B, you know this is going to be true, right? So if I say this is 10 and this is 50 and A greater than B, I'm going to run this. It's going to give me false, because in this case A is not greater than B. So whatever it is, A greater than B is either going to give me true or false depending on these two values, correct? So this is clear, right? Now what I'm trying to say is, if A is greater than B, then I'm going to put a colon. So this is called as syntaxing, right? So the syntax is if A greater than B, and then you have to put a colon. Now when I hit enter, you just see that there is something happening. The IDE is giving some space. Okay, so from the margin there is you are getting some space. This space is called as indentation. Okay, so we have this concept called code indentation. Okay, I think it is indentation. TATAO. Okay, so indentation. So this is there is an indent, that is the meaning of indent is some space from the margin. Why we need to do this is because this is called as your pep8 style. So this Guido Razam, right? So the one who did this Python, so he has made this syntax in such a way that it is very clear for the user to understand how the code structure looks like. Okay, so basically when you are writing some block statements, so if is a block statement or a conditional statement, right? So if some condition, you may have at least 2-3 lines to be run. Okay, in this case it's very simple, we are just going to use only one line, but later on when we see, we will be having if the condition is true, then we have 4-5 lines to be run under that condition. Okay, so these are going to be the block of statements which are going to be run if this condition is true. Okay, then I'm going to say else, I might run few other lines. Okay, So the reason to use this indent is that in other programming languages like C or C++, you will have something like this. If A is greater than B, then you use a bracket and then write the lines of code, then close the bracket. So that this bracket will indicate that this is the starting line and this is the ending line of this particular block. So in Python, you don't have any brackets to denote the start and stop of the codes. So to indicate, but Python should understand, right, what should be run within the if condition and what should be run outside the condition. That's where the indent is happening. So indent is nothing but a small space from the margin, and according to Pep8, so Pep8 is nothing but a style that is given by the Guido van Rossum, that guy. So what he says is that indent is something like you give 4 spaces from the margin. Okay, so that is what is an indent here. Okay. So what you if you use some other IDEs of Python like idle and all, it will not give this indent by default. So you will have something like this. Okay, so you will be getting if you say if A greater than B and press enter, you will still go back to the margin itself. Okay, so you have to say 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to say 4 spaces and so on. But this is Pep8 style, 4 spaces on the margin. But IDEs have evolved. So Pep8 was given very long back. It's not a very recent one. So Python, when it started, they were using this Pep8 syntax and standards. But now, if you use any of the IDEs, they take care of the indentation and other stuff by default. Just that you should manually inform that, okay, I'm going to stop the line with this particular statement. Okay. So I'm going to say if A greater than B, then all I'm going to say is print A is greater. Okay, and remember to give whatever you want to print within double quotes, so that whatever you type within this will get printed. Okay, so if A greater than B, which means if A is greater than B, if the condition is true, I'm printing A is greater. Okay. So then if you see here, when I hit enter, it is still lying on the same indent. So if I say else, then that is going to be wrong, because else should be coming in the place where if is there. So if and else should be on the same margin always. Okay. So later on, when we start defining functions and other stuff, we will be looking at something like this. Okay. So we will have let's say a function with something. Okay. I will talk about functions later. But wherever it is, wherever you are starting the if, corresponding else should start on the same line where the if is starting. So you have to keep that in mind. Okay. For now, we don't want this. So if A greater than B, so don't type anything else. Just type this. If A greater than B, print A is greater. Else print B is greater. Okay. So in this case, A is 10, B is 5. So what will be the result? A is greater. So when I run this, you can see that it is printing that A is greater. Yeah. Now if I change this, A equal to 10 and B equal to 50, I run this particular cell and then I'm going to run this back again. Now it is going to display that B is greater. Okay. So this piece of line, the code here, I didn't change any of this here, but because of the change in values, the corresponding output changes accordingly. Got the point? So here A is 10 and B is 50. That's why the result is B is greater. Fine. So maybe a quick question for you. You can just type this. I'll give you a couple of minutes time for you to type this. So let's say create a year called 2000 or 2004 for now. Okay. Or okay, do this. Get a year as input from user and check whether the year is a leap year. I'm just making this as a markdown. This is a question now. Just give a try. So of course, for leap year, there are so many conditions. But for now, what I want you to check is, I want to check whether the year is divisible by 4 or not. So how do you check whether it is divisible by 4 or not? You have to use the mod operator to check. Okay, I'm just giving the solution. Yeah, fine. So you can just look for my solution. Of course, you can always check your solution with mine. And for these programs, you can have almost the same solutions, but for different programs, maybe you can solve it in multiple ways. Right? So I've taken an year from the user as an input. So it can be any number. I'm just checking if the year mod 4 double equal to 0. So you know that if you want to check or compare, okay, so I'm saying year mod 4, this will give me a result, right? So this will give me the remainder. And if that is equal to 0, so I'm just checking the condition. If year mod 4 double equal to 0. If you use a single equal to, you will not get the result at all. So now if I change a different year here, let's say I run this file, run this and make it as 2007. And now I run this, I will get the year as a not leap year. Any doubts?
If I've imported 2007 and I want as a in a print I'm like 2007 is a leap year and 2007 is not a leap year. Can we do that something?
Okay, yeah, fine.
Yeah, you can use year and comma followed by parentheses. You can type it as a leap year or not leap year.
Perfect. Okay, so there are multiple ways actually. So I'm just coming to that next, right? So I'm just coming one by one. So you are all very enthusiastic and directly going for the next step. So yeah, so you have multiple ways to do that. Okay, so I'll just give you that. So the easiest way is, as someone said, all you have to do is here you say year, comma, and then say is leap year. So this is one of the ways in which you can do this. It's not a leap year. Okay. So whatever year you type here, right? So it is 2004 or 2005, and when you do this, now this year alone is not within the double quotes, which means I'm printing the value, right? So if you look at the previous cases that we have done, so a equal to 10 and print a. So if I give something without quotes, the value of that gets printed. If I give something within quotes, then whatever you give within quotes gets printed as such. That is the idea of using a print statement, right? So if you give something within double quotes in print, it will print as such. So if you say a year is a leap year, everything in quotes, you will not get this value at all. So I'm saying year is a leap year, and here if I say year is not a leap year, so this will just say year is not a leap year. That's all. So if you want to get that value also, just put year alone outside this quotes and give a comma. That is one method.